The defense team for former powerhouse lawyer Alec Murdaugh is seizing the moment just days after the South Carolina Supreme Court tossed out his double murder convictions and ordered a retrial in the deaths of his wife Maggie and son Paul. Murdaugh's defense team announced it has filed a lawsuit against Becky Hill, the former Colleton County Court Clerk. Hill is the reason the state Supreme Court overturned the murder convictions. They ruled she improperly influenced jurors during the 6-week trial. The civil lawsuit builds on that ruling. It alleges the former clerk violated Murdaugh's constitutional right to a fair trial, saying the state's high court already determined that is so. This comes as the defense says it is already gearing up for a retrial, saying they're working on new evidence in the case.
We pointed out during the last trial that they did find a unknown male DNA who was not related to any Murdaugh or any of Maggie's family under her fingernail. That was, not really followed up on. We asked that they follow up on that before the last trial. We don't have possession of that DNA, so we can't do anything with it. We can perhaps, with a new case, back to square one, go and seek an order from the court to compel them to send it off to CODIS.
Remember, that lawsuit against the Colleton County Clerk is seeking $600,000 in damages, money that could come in handy for the man representing Alec Murdaugh that you just listened to. His lawyer said today they're effectively working for free because his substantial fortune is now gone after he was also convicted of stealing money from clients. Let's go to our panel now. Dave Aronberg is the former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, and Brian Claypool is the criminal defense attorney. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you. We just heard Alec Murdaugh's lawyers talk about the fact that there's DNA evidence under Maggie's fingernail that he thinks could be, exonerating evidence showing somebody else killed her. But couldn't evidence under a victim's fingernails, couldn't that have come from anywhere?
Yeah, hey, Elizabeth, great to be back with you. Absolutely, and it's really a double-edged sword, right? If Murdaugh's defense team gets a court order and has that DNA tested under the fingernail, and it matches Murdaugh, right, Alec Murdaugh, we don't know yet, right? And it does, then that's devastating. And if it doesn't, then who does it match? It would have to go to a DNA database to find out who it matches. But look, he's got to be really careful with that as well. I really think that he should focus, on trying to hone up his client testifying at trial. One other comment I want to make is the crime scene, Elizabeth. It was destroyed. That's shocking to me. And I really think that Murdaugh's team needs to make a big deal about that because they're not going to have jurors to be able to get out there, look at the scene of the crime. And I really think that might benefit Murdaugh in a retrial. Yeah,
that's a good point, Dave, that he raises, because that was a big part of the first trial, the jury's field trip of the house and the barn sort of facility where the murders happened, where Maggie and his son Paul were visiting their dogs, the dog kennel that they had there. One of the other most damning portions of Murdaugh's first murder trial, Dave, was when he took the stand and testified in his own defense. It was by all accounts a train wreck. My question is, can prosecutors use that video of that testimony in a second trial, even if Murdaugh invokes his right to the Fifth Amendment not to testify?
Well, it's good to be back with you, Elizabeth and Brian. Well, this was testimony under oath. This was subject to cross-examination. So it should be fair game, and especially fair game if he does testify. That can be used for impeachment. And so his words are going to come back to haunt him, his lies. And the fact is that Paul solved his own murder. Paul had that Snapchat video, right, with his father's voice on it after he was not supposed to be at the dog kennels. And if I could say something about the DNA, I agree with Brian on this one. That's a red herring. That is not a good argument for them. Do you know that at the trial, they brought this up, the so-called DNA under Maggie's fingernails? It was this faint, degraded, partial DNA profile. And we know that you pick up like foreign touch DNA constantly when you're touching doorknobs and gas pumps. And also, the medical examiner testified that there were absolutely no defensive wounds. And she wasn't locked in a hand-to-hand combat. She was shot by Murdaugh from afar. So I think that is a non-start of the whole DNA thing.
Yeah, and also, Dave, very quickly, what do you make of this lawsuit for $600,000 against the county clerk? On the one hand, the state Supreme Court just said she did, in fact, tamper with the jury. On the other hand, to launch this lawsuit and demand, close to $1 million, is quite something.
I think the South Carolina Supreme Court gave the defense the ability to get that money, and I think they actually have a good shot at it. But here's the good news. The money will not go to Murdaugh. It will go towards the victims. There are laws to send it to those who need to be compensated. The only thing that goes to Murdaugh
so
will be
the
going to
lawyers
his
can't
lawyers.
use it to pay their bills?
Well, the lawyers will seek attorney's fees, and they'll get the attorney's fees for this action,
Okay.
the one seeking the money, but not for the trial that happened.
Okay.